think it's live.
Not yet.
You sure? Because when I watched the last one, it had us kind of waiting in the beginning.
We're live now. It caught you saying all that.
Uh,
Anyway, welcome. This is Paranormal Pulse. This is Cordell, and this is our paranormal discussion broadcast. I currently have Dave online. How you doing, Dave, from Scotland? How you doing?
doing good. It's the
Good.
clocks have gone forward, so I've lost an hour's sleep, but it's the way it is.
Yeah, well, we went through that a couple weeks ago, and daylight savings time, and hate that. Now we are waiting for Carrie. She's going to be joining us, hopefully, really soon. And just for those, it's really strange. This software. Oh, hey, Kimberly, how you doing? Yes, we're
Like, like,
definitely live. Thanks, Kimberly. Uh, and we got Bob. Hi, Bob. How you doing? And Dave, do you know Bob?
yeah, absolutely.
Just checking, just checking. And so what I was explaining is this software, it'll say we're live, but on YouTube, it isn't. It takes anywhere from 5 seconds to like 20 seconds for it to actually go live on YouTube. So some of the streams you've caught us talking, going, is it live yet? Is it live? Yeah, well, that's why. So and like I said, Carrie, hopefully Dave will be joining us shortly. She was rebooting her computer and stuff. Technology is a wonderful thing when it works correctly, right? Anyway, tonight's show is on haunted objects. And it's this is an interesting topic. It's kind of a standard thing, Dave, in the paranormal. Um, now, I do I here's my frustration, Dave. And let me just show you before we go any further. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay. Okay. So, right here is a YouTube search I did. And I don't know if you can see the search, but I literally up at the top here I put in haunted objects. That's all I put. Haunted objects. Um, what's weird about this, Dave? What's the second one say? Can you read it?
Top 10 creepiest cursed objects.
Objects.
Yeah,
And then there's haunted objects, but as you scroll down,
bunch
there's
of
a
kids. Yeah,
well, there's a bunch of cursed and haunted object stories, blah blah blah. But you end up with real creepy cursed objects. And it frustrates me in the fact, Dave, that oh, Carrie is there. Hey, Carrie,
there you go.
are you going to be able to join, Carrie? I hope so. Um, thanks, guys. So hopefully Carrie will jump on. She's on the chat, uh, but hopefully she can jump on here real soon. But this is my frustrating part. I'm going to take this off this screen here. Um, this is the frustrating part, guys, is they're not the same thing, right, Dave? The cursed objects, haunted objects, two totally separate things. Um, what's your opinion on that, Dave?
Yeah, for me, if it's a cursed object, normally is when you think of cursed objects, you think of, I don't know, the curse of Tutankhamun, various Dybbuk and things like that, where things are where there's harm or death. I think from a curse. I think a
Well,
haunting
go ahead.
suggests a haunting. A haunting suggests you might see an old man sitting in an armchair, like a rocking horse, or not a rocking horse, a rocking chair, or a rocking horse, right? Because
It's
um,
what, hey, Dave, it's
you never know
whatever
what old men do, Cordell.
it's whatever you're into, we'll use. So
It's
go
like
ahead.
So yes, so if you might buy a rocking chair from an antique store, and you may come, it may be rocking now and again, and then you see a figure of an old man or woman sitting in it. That to me is a haunted object. A cursed object is something, I don't know. That silver vase from that wedding in the 15th century, a Bassano vase. Where you give it to someone else and they suddenly die horribly. So yeah, to me, a curse always suggests probably harm in some way, and haunting suggests a haunting or
Um,
something related to that.
Carrie's posting, there is possessed. Well, and Carrie's absolutely right. There's actually, if you throw in the third category of possessed, but um, the cursed objects to me is somebody else physically did something, a charm, chant, or some ritual to curse something to make it that anybody obtaining this or using this object will meet some horrible fate. It doesn't necessarily imply independent, conscious entity behind the cursed object, and that's my view of it. It's like the Hope Diamond. The Hope Diamond is one of the famous one, Tutankhamun, King Tut. That it was supposedly his tomb was cursed not by King Tut, but by the priests as they sealed the tomb to scare off any tomb raiders or looters, and and then that whole thing. And it's funny. Here's a good example, guys. Is and I, Dave, this is where I want your input. So, like, if you take King Tut, dozens and dozens of years, and yeah, there's half a dozen people that died that are directly related to the opening of the tomb or with objects in the tomb and stuff. But the simple fact is, over dozens and dozens of years, people do die. People get diseases, people have accidents.
Yeah,
I don't understand. Everybody forgets about if let's say 10 people die over 50 years associated to an object, nobody everybody forgets about the thousand other people that were associated with the object or held it or whatever, and nothing happened to them. So to me, that's a cursed object, and I don't really buy into that. I don't believe that. So go ahead, what's your another take on that, Dave?
I agree the same. It's coincidence. It's people looking for patterns. If you know it's a cursed, or if it's a reputedly cursed object or whatever, cursed movie set. I think was it the Poltergeist? Some a couple of movies had associated curses with them, where one people died in 1,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it's just looking for patterns where there are none. I don't believe or agree with it.
Well, yeah, and to go a little further with what you said, I mean, the human brain and what we always do is you always remember for sure the bad stuff. You remember that thing that happened 6 months ago, and you associate it as bad and evil, but we then forget about all the positive stuff that happened prior and after that. And I just want to give a shout out. Jane is on. Hi, Jane. How you doing? Hey,
Hi, Jim.
Carrie, where are you? Trying to get on? I hope Carrie's trying to get on. I was going to text Carrie Dave, but then I realized, well, she's online here. So I'll just say, get your butt on here, Carrie. Jeez. I'm not going to, yeah. So anyway, in retrospect, I probably should have labeled this haunted slash cursed objects, because there's a difference. And if you look on YouTube, just put in haunted objects or cursed objects, you will get a smattering of both. There's actually a couple that says some of the most haunted objects, and then the description said these cursed objects, but in the title it says haunted objects. They're two different things. They're just two different things, my opinion. And if you disagree, please tell us. And I'll let Dave argue my point for me if you disagree. How's that? Is that fair? Um,
I feel the same way.
excuse me. So I have a YouTube, and I think it's Mojo Top 10 Haunted Objects in Museums. And I don't want to talk about specific ones like the Divic box that Zach Bagan has. I'd like to talk about categories. Like I don't want to talk about specific dolls, just the concept of why would dolls be haunted? Are dolls actually haunted? So Dave, let's just do categories of objects, furniture, things like that. And what so I debated, Dave, and to the audience, uh should I play these and we discuss each of these type of objects? So and I was torn right before we went on air. So what I think I'll do is I'll play part of this and then we'll talk about I'll play
Yeah, just
and let's just because I haven't watched it. This one I have not watched. I have not seen. I've never seen this
a bit
one.
risky.
Well, I don't know what's on there. I don't know what objects, but I thought it was interesting because it says haunted objects in museums. So let me get it set up, and I'll let you say anything else on this topic while I get it set up, Dave. Go ahead. And Carrie, get your butt on here. Okay, go ahead, Dave.
Oh, hey, it's a good opportunity to discuss, differences between haunted objects and cursed objects. I hope at some stage we discuss, there's those locations where if you take a stone or a pebble or some memorabilia, I think there was some ghost towns in the US where if you take something, people end up posting them back. I'm sure if Carrie mentioned that, somebody mentioned that anyway. And I know like Ayers Rock in Australia, if you take a pebble, you're supposed to post that back. People have, and I think it's just people trying to find patterns where there's none, for their misfortunes.
Well, yeah, there's a bunch of locations in the United States where, especially, it has to do with rocks, and some are
Yeah.
associated with mines and stuff. And
But then how could that be cursed? Or how could a pebble in an entire place? How could that be? It certainly couldn't be haunted, could it? I mean, or could it? I don't know.
Well, and well,
supposed to be cursed.
And there's probably about 5 different jokes I could tell right now, but so I'm trying to be serious here. I don't get it either, yeah. Dave. Is the concept that each broken piece of rock is actually individually cursed, or is the land cursed, thereby association everything else is cursed? Are they implying that it's haunted, there's some demonic or evil force that is watching what everybody does 24/7 in that location, and they go, oh, Dave just took one of my rocks. I know I got petabytes of rocks, trillions but I'm gonna make him pay for taking that 2-ounce rock. It makes no sense to me. It's like ridiculous, I think. But
I think just to throw it out there, Cordell, just to start off with, the way we're probably going to go on is I don't believe any of it. Just to put it out there, just as a starting point. Objects, I just don't know how. I think after watching a documentary on the Anguished Man painting, when the paranormal expert who they wheeled in said something like, "Well, the painter he transferred his EMF to it, and went, oh, that makes sense. In what world does that make sense?" So yeah, it's I've got absolutely zero belief or in any of the haunted objects, cursed objects, things like that. Just to start off with that, I just wanted to make that clear.
But I would, go ahead.
but I will contribute to this.
Well, and it's the same thing because the painting you're talking about, Dave, on our Facebook broadcast, we talked about that one because the story, the myth, legend, story is that he also mixed some of the paint with his blood or his blood with the paint, which, well, sure, you do that, it's going to be haunted, right? Well, yeah,
Yeah,
well,
absolutely. It's going to transfer your EMF to it.
and because think about it, uh, so it's an interesting concept because you can over the years, I mean, you can donate your hair, right? And they make wigs out of it. And so
Yeah,
say, Dave, since you have this luscious head of
that's where
hair,
all mine's gone in the
yeah,
wigs. Yeah,
yeah, I was just saying,
I'm sure Bob's got one of my wigs. His hair's fairly.
so hypothetically, let's say Dave with his luscious mane of hair donates it. Month after he donates it, he dies. Does that, and the guy that gets Dave's hair all of a sudden ends up getting, I don't know, he dies somehow in an accident or something.
Hey, could I just put a? There's a new law come out in Scotland where if you die, your organs will automatically be taken unless you opt out. So you have to physically opt out, otherwise it's assumed that. Do you think reading material can be cursed? Bob, if rocking horses can be cursed, I'm sure reading material, and if a pebble on the beach can be cursed, I'm
Well,
sure reading
no,
material.
no. See, you're
What?
missing. Here's the problem: is it's Bob. All his reading material, because of what it is cursed.
And
I know what
I've been
reading
witness.
material.
I've
Huh?
been witness to that from a very young age. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Bob keeps his reading material between his mattresses underneath the. So yeah, that's probably cursed. No, but it's an interesting concept because you're right, Dave. People donate organs and all kinds of objects. Why mixing somebody's blood into paint? Why would that automatically mean that it's going to be a haunted object from this point forward? It's a good story, right? It's a good. It makes for a good story.
Makes for a great sell as well, if you want to sell a painting.
Yeah, and honestly, there's all kinds of stories of artists mixing their blood and other material into paintings. I mean, I hate to bring it up, but it is
Yeah,
absolutely true. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, these cursed objects, I think it's interesting. The other part of the curse side, Dave, is, and to the audience, is the whole concept of witches and voodoo, and you get somebody's fingernail clippings and hair and stuff like that, and they say some stuff over this, and they bury it in the ground, and um, oh, Carrie's here. So and they bury it in the ground, and somehow that's the whole concept I don't understand, is saying a few words. Oh, we got Carrie here. I'm going to bring her on. She'll be on here. There she is. Hey,
Hey,
Carrie.
Gary.
Hey,
How you doing today?
48 hours of no sleep, and apparently my computer was possessed or cursed or all of it.
Exactly. That's the.
Oh, it was bouncing everywhere, so I had to bring the kid in to fix it.
uh, oh, wait a minute. I do have to pose this. Yeah, Dave found them. See, Bob knew what I was talking about.
I knew what you were talking about.
Yeah. So Dave at 10 years old found Bob's reading material, I guess. So
I think I was 7, but never mind.
7. Yeah, okay. uh, also, Jane has a question for you, Carrie.
Hey, Jane.
Uh, oh, and Bob, I think he's referring to me, Carrie, but I could be wrong. Was that for me, Bob? Hi, darling.
Good old Bob. Love that man.
Uh, anyway, we'll try to stay on track here. And guys, what I'll do is I'll try to keep focus on the chats. I'll post them up. And Oh, and Jane says hi, Carrie.
Hi, Janie.
So the problem I have too with cursed items is, like I just said, that the old stories of voodoo and witches, and you take clippings, toenail or fingernail and hair, and you mix it up and say a bunch of magical words, bury it in the ground, and somehow that bestows some magical force and powerful force on it, and is directed to an individual. I don't understand that. It makes good stories, but what's your guys' take on the whole voodoo, witch, and curse? Because that's the most standard, right? Somebody literally cursed an object or cursed an individual. What? And we'll go with, since Carrie just joined us, we'll go with Carrie first, then Dave.
Well, I think with voodoo, it's very old. It takes Catholicism mixed with other beliefs, and it's still practiced today down south. So that's a lot to put in. But a witch, I don't think people understand what a witch is. Basically, they're thinking of like the TV witches and all this stuff. But I I think when you say things are cursed and all that, it's usually somebody who owns something that wants to keep it to themselves or keep it in the family, or, this is cursed. If it leaves the family, whoever owns it's going to whatever. But cursed items make money. So I don't believe in cursed and possessed and all that, but it all feeds into the fear of death and that. So
Okay.
but,
No, that's a good take, Carrie. And
because if you did that, then like kind of what David mentioned earlier, then how is Bermuda Triangle or even stone, uh I can't think, the stone
and
Stonehenge?
yeah, or stone tape, the playback
Oh,
wouldn't.
stone tape. There you go.
Yeah, then is that apparently all cursed or haunted, or it's just flimsy?
yeah. No, and I just want to add one thing to what you said, Carrie, is I think it's also control. There's this, we all like to be in control, and if we believe something's cursed, we no longer have control. That freaks people out and that scares people. That feeds into it, because that's me. If I put a curse on Dave, and then I'm saying you no longer can control your life. I control you, and I have dictated that you're going to be injured and killed and everything. And so it's a whole control thing too. But go ahead.
Yeah, just real quick. I mean, yeah, if I don't want you or Dave to have something of mine, if I'm possessive of it, or I'm going to tell you, yeah, that's bad luck. Don't use it. That's bad luck. So it is. It's a way of keeping to oneself items that you want, or it's a control, absolutely a control. And it's just, I can pass anything and say it's bad luck or it's cursed or possessed, haunted, whatever.
So Dave, real quick, your turn for any input on that, and then I'm going to
Yeah.
play a little bit of this video. But go ahead.
I mean, yeah, people have used kind of cursed and haunted locations for years to control kids, and or for to do some nefarious activity out there. If it's how they used to control their kids. Don't go outside because the boogeyman's out there.
Urban legends.
Yeah. It's people have used this for years as a means of control. But I think you mentioned voodoo. I think voodoo is a grossly misrepresented kind of religion. It's like any religion, and I think it's just the TV, which is kind of, I'm not saying demonized it, but it's associated it with the darker side of things.
Unknown. It's an unknown. But can I add one thing?
Yeah.
Why are cursed objects always something that can be manipulated? Like when Dave's saying the rocking chair or it's always something that's cursed is something that can be manipulated. I hardly ever see a solid object that just sits there and they say that's cursed. It's something I think that people can manipulate, cause to move. It just is weird to me that those type of objects are always cursed. The rocking
Yeah,
chairs are.
and I get what you're saying, and I would add that a lot of times cursed items are what would be considered personal items. Also, that something that you would never want to do without. It's like the Hope Diamond,
Something you
worth
want to keep in the family.
yeah, a Hope Diamond worth millions of dollars, but it's cursed. So Dave, you can be a millionaire, but you'll never enjoy the millions because the diamond is cursed.
You know what, Cordell? If I was an Egyptian priest, which I'm not, by the way, just to put that clear. If I was an Egyptian priest and I didn't want any thief to steal what was in there, I would say it was cursed. And if you look at a lot of the cursed items actually are fairly expensive or valuable items. There's some sapphire, there's an emerald, I think, there's a diamond, so I think people just, I agree, Carrie, people just want to keep it, and therefore put the fear in it.
Well, this is the last thing I'll say, and then we'll get on to haunted objects, which is what originally this was all going to be about. But out of frustration, I think we have to talk about the whole concept of cursed objects because in the paranormal, they seem to be getting intertwined and mixed together, which I don't think we should be doing. But
So sorry, Cordell, can I ask a quick question?
yeah, yeah.
James Dean's car.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Hold on a second. Hold on.
I did an article on that. I actually did an article on that.
You know where I'm coming from.
Well, here's what I was going to say. Actually, the one last thing I was going to say is that if you take somebody famous and they die in some unnatural or perceived horrible way, inevitably, whatever they died with will become magically cursed. James Dean.
It was cursed before it got to him, though.
So,
but it's still tied in with death. But I did an article on that actually years ago.
Was it cursed or haunted? Was it cursed or haunted?
Cursed. It was, if you drive it, you're going to die, and
because harm was involved. Yeah.
Well, and
actually was speeding or whatever. It was cursed.
And on some of this stuff, though, it magically becomes cursed, and then a story's built up that it was cursed, 50 years ago before your friend got the item. Which a lot of times, here's the problem: how do you prove a curse? For one thing, again, it's like what we talked about at the opening here. If an object has been around and said to be cursed for 100 years, yeah, you can probably cherry pick out 30 people that died that were somehow associated with that object at one point or another. But nobody ever talks about the 450 people that didn't die mysteriously or what they perceived to be mysteriously. There's one of the problems. Go ahead, Carrie.
Yeah, I think cursed objects also is like with that. It's something that you can't explain to somebody. It's an unknown, unexplained fear that you can easily sit there, and it's easy for someone who doesn't have answers or has suffered a loss through something like that to say it's cursed because they're trying to find something to put the loss or the blame onto because they don't know. So it's easy to say, if you're in a car accident or whatever, for example, my mom, she died, from a car accident. I could easily say, well, my car was cursed, so I think that's how it falls into unexplained and just the fear and stuff. It's just easier to say it was cursed than to actually, try to truly understand what happened.
Well, and there goes the rationalization. We all want to explain why James Dean died when he did. and in the car he did. So it becomes
You're right. If
real.
it's someone famous versus Joe Blow.
Yeah, lots of young people die in fast cars, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
James Dean was very young when he died. Real quick, a shout out. Thanks for the comment, Robert. Or Robert, Bob. Sorry, he has his name as Robert. We know him as Bob, but well, let's get to this video, and I do want to say a couple things before we start playing it. I'm gonna play the whole thing. This is Mojo, and this is so go visit them. I'm not gonna. Oops, somebody's doing something very loud.
Oh, sorry. I was flipping my paper.
Anyway, I want to give a complete shout out to any video we play, and this is Mojo. So watchmojo.com. Very big site. They have 23 million subscribers on YouTube. I've watched them many times. This one is called Top 10 Haunted Objects in Museums. I'll tell you what, guys, what I'll do is I'll just play a few minutes of it and then we'll discuss. Now, these are supposedly haunted objects, and I haven't watched it, and I'm waiting to see if any of them, if they throw in the term cursed in this video. So here we go.
You do not want to mess with these cursed relics. Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 haunted objects in museums. For this list, we're looking at items in museums that are allegedly haunted based on first-hand accounts. Number 10, the Dybbuk box. Paranormal investigator Zach Bagans opened his very own haunted museum in Las Vegas in 2017, which is home to a number of items that supposedly have ghostly histories.
This is an unusual present for you.
One thing that's housed there is the Dybbuk box, a wine box that is said to be haunted by a Dybbuk, an evil spirit who is supposedly able to possess people. In fact, the box served as the inspiration for the 2012 movie The Possession.
Host begins to hear voices, experience visions. All of this is the deception of the spirit to protect the host and drive others away.
Okay, I'm stopping it there because I don't want to sit here and watch all this stuff for movies and everything. Like I said, I not watched this, so I had no idea what they were going to show. Now, I don't want to talk about the Dybbuk box. What I wanted, what?
I just real quick, I agree. Don't talk about Dybbuk box, but you know how the Dybbuk box is now popular among people because of the TV show Zach.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and this is what we're going to talk about. So let's talk about these type of objects. Maybe it's a music box. It's this so-called Dybbuk box. By the way, it's all made up on the Dybbuk box. I'll just throw that out there. That's my opinion. If you do research on it, it has no foundation of reality beyond further. It goes to about the year 2000, 2003. There's nothing about that past that. It's all made up and everything. So having said that, let me stop. So these type of objects, guys, let's lump in, I don't know, dresser drawers, bunk beds, a box where you keep family heirlooms, these type of objects. I want your guys' take on this.
A divvy box.
Yeah.
What's a divvy? A davy box.
Oh, it's my thick English American accent, Bob. There.
We'll let Dave explain that.
Thanks, Bob, for the comments. So let's talk about these inanimate objects, furniture, boxes, these type of things. One, and I'll start with Dave first this time. Do you think it's possible that, and let's define haunted object first. And for me, I would view a haunted object that means that there's a spirit, an entity attached to this object. And for some reason, wherever this object goes, this entity or spirit goes, no matter what the location is, ship it UPS, the spirit still goes with it and ends up wherever. And it's permanently, this object is possessed by an entity, a spirit or entity. And so let's use that definition of a haunted object. So is it possible, Dave and Carrie, we'll start with Dave. Do you think it's possible? Or maybe you absolutely think it is, maybe it isn't. And some of your reasoning or take on these type of things. We'll start with Dave first. Go ahead, Dave.
I don't believe at all that it could be possible. Yeah, I mean, how you know, and in fairness, right? It is no one knows. No one knows anything in this field. A lot of experts do seem to pull things from their ass, you know, when they're explaining their theories and things. But no one knows anything. So I may be being unfair by jumping to a conclusion, but my belief is that I can't see how. I can't see how a coin, a piece of wood. It's funny you should mention, but somebody did have haunted bunk beds once. You mentioned bunk beds. Tolman's bunk beds.
Yeah. Something like that's the
Yeah.
fear.
I don't know. I mean, antique stores, right? How many people have browsed antique stores and gone home with things? Me all the time. You know, it's so not like I have got a house full of ghosts. So maybe I am kind of defeating my own argument here. But no, I don't. I couldn't see how, Cordell. I couldn't see how.
Well, no, that's
How could something attach? I mean, how could something attach and and travel across? I mean, how? No.
I don't know. That's why I have you two experts here. So, Carrie, what's your take on
it? I've been writing as he's talking.
Yeah, or anything but experts, Scott.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit on a couple things real quick. If someone says something haunted, and can a person explain if asked, why is this object haunted? Majority of the time they can't. Specifically say, and if I took that object from them and nothing happens to me, can they explain then why it's not haunted or it's not happening? So in the same aspect, I don't see how things can jump item to item, but I think it ties in with people's personal feelings towards an object or something. For example, dolls. Kids grow up with dolls. They put feelings, emotions on all this into dolls or toys. As parents, we see them interacting with these dolls, and it's a good thing. So if a child passes, the doll almost represents a bit of that child to the parent or whatever. And I think that's how some things become, it's haunted. Simply because it does remind you a bit of the child or something. And so I think that's how dolls get kind of haunted or possessed. And it just ties into emotions and feelings and what we want to assign to certain objects. Because what is, things that I love or personal to me are not going to match you and Dave. But I can't say if you take that, you're going to be haunted too. And when nothing happens to you, explain why it didn't. And it's the same concept, Dave. I don't see how. I think dolls and that are memories and what people want to put into it.
Well, I'm assuming on the video it'll touch on dolls, but Dave, you were going to say something.
I think everybody's got to admit that dolls are just creepy themselves, aren't they? I think it's those lifeless faces and anyway. I mean, it is dolls and clowns,
teddy bears.
Yeah.
You just described my first two girlfriends when I was in high school. So sorry. I'll let everybody ponder that. Okay, let's get back to the video. And like I said, I have no. What?
I said, thank you, Bob.
Oh. Thank you, Bob. Keep the comments coming, guys, and hit the like button, by the way. That would be really nice. Let me start this video again. Now, I did move it forward to get out of what we were last seeing. And
I don't know if Janie's still there. I want to hear her comment.
Dave, can you interpret what Bob just said?
Aren't.
Yeah, he's just said mine or not.
Oh, mine are not. Okay. All right, here we go. Let's get this going here. See what else they say.
And was eventually donated to Bagans for his museum.
When you spin the cabinet around, there's the shimmer.
Also known as Thomas Busby's stoop chair, this simple wooden chair is said to have been cursed by accused murderer Thomas Busby.
Busby was really a bad person. He was a drunkard and a bully, and he obviously apparently beat his wife Elizabeth, who was...
Busby was executed by hanging in 1702 in North Yorkshire, but before he died, he allegedly performed something sinister on the chair in question.
At some stage during that evening, Busby insisted that death shall come swiftly to anyone that dares to sit in my chair. This was minutes before he was led off to his execution.
Over the years, several deaths have been attributed to people sitting in the chair, and later dying under suspicious circumstances.
And locals noticed that the soldiers who sat in the chair would never return from war.
It now remains at the Thirsk Museum, where it's displayed hanging from the ceiling, making it impossible for anyone, even museum staff, to sit on it.
Okay, that's enough of that one. Now, again, guys, let me take this solo off and hide the video. I didn't really want to talk about like these individual objects. I just kind of wanted to discuss the whole concept. And again, this is an interesting one because it's something we all use, right? It's a chair. It's something everybody has in their house. It could be this could have been a couch. It could have been any type of. It could be in Dave's toilet in his bathroom that is haunted, because it's something you sit in. Everybody uses. Everybody has one. So let's take it from that perspective. That a lot of these haunted objects are daily stuff you would use and everything. Do you think that has some link to this? And Dave, go ahead, your turn first.
Well, I would say, out of the 20,000 people who sat in the chair, if 3 died, yeah, absolutely, it's haunted. It's just absolute coincidence. I mean, people go to war and don't come back. I mean, how could you associate that with a chair? I do know where this is. It's kind of south a bit of Bob.
Go sit in it.
South, yeah.
Test it.
Well, Bob, go down and sit in it.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, I think it's just looking for patterns. Somebody says anybody will die sitting in this chair. Somebody goes to war and 4 years later might get killed. And that's it. It's related. Nah. Sorry, I don't think so.
And Carrie, you're next. I just want to add one thing, and that is these objects, again, daily stuff, right? Chairs, for example. Let's just take the concept of chairs. Is this chair just said to be haunted? The myth has sprung up because it was supposedly a murderer's favorite chair. Is that where this all stems from? Go ahead, Carrie.
Well, kind of what you're saying. These are objects that last, that can be passed down, through time. But when you think of murders, when you think of someone who's murdered someone, there's a fear, there's a senseless act was committed. And therefore, again, you're tying these emotions and putting it into this chair, because basically you're not going to see the guy who committed the murder or whatever, but since this was his chair, we now associate that with the chair. It's a senseless act. It's a horrible thing. And again, it's an emotion, an unexplained emotion that's put onto an object. Personal, person to person. As for someone dying who sit in the chair, a lot of times people die from conditions that are already there. And the timing just so happens he dies after sitting in the chair. Well, he could have had heart conditions prior to that, and the timing. underlying conditions. It doesn't mean someone died because they sat in a chair. There's 99% chance there's underlying conditions, and it's just timing.
Yeah, so I think it's safe to say, Carrie, you and Dave are on the same page because Dave mentioned the same thing, and I agree with you that again, everybody remembers the three guys in 5 years that died, and somebody went, "Oh, and last week he was sitting in that chair at the pub." I know it's the chair, and it gets linked. Nobody ever remembers the 10,000 people that sat in the chair before, prior, and everything, and nothing ever happened to him. So yeah,
They
I
remember
think
sorry.
no, go ahead.
They remember the murderer because it's a fear. It's something, it's taboo. You don't want to know anybody who's been killed or someone does it. It just feeds into fear.
So so here's my first question to you guys. And you can just say yes or no, or maybe, or I don't know. Um, do either one of you think an object like a chair, a couch, anything like that? I'm just looking around my house here, which is nothing but objects, right? All our homes are objects. Even the home itself is an object. Do you think an object such as a chair or a couch or something can actually be in of itself haunted, and wherever that object goes, doesn't matter distance, can send it to the moon, it'll stay haunted? Do you think a spirit in or do you think, well, let me throw a twist in it. So let's say a haunted object, do you believe that maybe the chair, and this where it goes, breaks off and goes to a cursed item, like this chair, let's say it's actually isn't inhabited by the murderer, would these type of objects, could they have a curse? Because to me it's either cursed or there's an actual entity attached to these objects, a spirit of some sort. What do you guys think? Maybe haunted objects don't exist at all and it's all cursed, or maybe curse doesn't exist and it's all haunted objects. What do you guys think? Go ahead, Dave, first.
Sorry.
I think neither, Cordell. I think that yeah, I don't know how an inanimate object could have a curse or could have. I mean, there's so much passed down through many centuries, and everywhere would be haunted or cursed, wouldn't it? Really, no one wants to give up their belongings. Yeah, I don't know how. I would say neither. I don't believe that an object could be haunted or cursed.
Carrie, what's your take on it?
I don't believe they can either. Then you're, like I said, you're gonna have to go back and look at the stone tape theory. You know, you can throw that in there, but you know, for an object to be haunted and people say it moves, it's cursed or whatever, what does it need? It something has to be put into motion, whether it's emotional or physical, to make objects, you know, get to that level. And when we're saying that, then we're saying that someone is causing that, person to person. Something has to be put into motion, but I don't believe maybe cursed. You know, it's what people want to believe. And again, I think a sign for fear of unknown. But
Okay.
It's interesting
Dave,
what Bob
well,
wrote there.
hold on one second. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, Dave, do you want to tell the story of what Bob posted?
Yeah.
And wait a minute, hold on. I'm gonna go get one of my haunted objects, okay, guys? Because I want to show you what a real haunted object looks like. So
I got objects all up there.
you know, you're always saying there's a cat. I don't have a cat. I don't have a cat here. I don't know why. There is nothing here at all. Nothing, no cat. So anyway, I'm gonna go get one of my haunted objects. And why, Dave, tell the story of the pub called the Dirty Bottle. because you told me this story. Tell the
Yeah.
audience, and I'll be right back with my.
So Northumberland.
haunted-
Yeah, well, Northumberland is a county in the northeast of England. It's a really old county, and that's where all the castles and that are. It borders Scotland, and there's a town in Alnwick. Yeah, there's a town in Alnwick. There's a town called Alnwick even, and it has a huge castle there and lots of history. But it also has a pub, and the pub used to be called Old Cross Inn, something like that. And there's some bottles in the window, and I passed by years ago. I think it was Bob who told us. Passed by years ago with a view to touch them, because they're covered in cobwebs. They're really old bottles. They're in the window. They're overturned, and if you touch them, you die, according to the sign in the window next to the bottles. And I think it was all blocked off. You couldn't get access to it when I went inside. But apparently, like, last person who touched them died, and the person before that died. But that was 2 people out of many, probably. But it is interesting. So, like, kind of local little towns do have their own. I'm not saying that tourist traps, but they do have their own little tales like this. And this is one of them in Northumberland. Yeah.
Arsenic, lead poison.
But Alnwick's a great town, a lot of history, and I mean this pub is now called the Dirty Bottle, named after the dirty bottles. So yeah, it's interesting when you things. Actually, Bob, I mean, while Bob's on there, Winter's Gibbet in Northumberland, they hung a guy for killing a woman in Edinburgh, and they had a wooden head on the gibbet, and it kept getting stolen. Was that head not supposed to be cursed as well, or? This question for Bob, who's in the audience.
What's interesting is in Europe, UK, and all that, there's a lot of stories like this, because there's a lot of, there's a lot of history. It goes far, far back, more so than here in the States, because basically we're baby country compared to that. But if you're thinking curse with stories like that, like when I was in Switzerland and all that, and the castles there's also items that if you sit in this chair, you're going to get married within a year. Or if you do this, there's also things that are associated that are good. So does curse have to be bad, or can it be good? Because for these people, they're saying if you touch that bottle, you're going to die. And if you sit in this chair, good things are going to happen to you.
It's like, if you're at a wedding and you throw the bouquet back, and if someone catches it, they're supposed to be the next one getting married. And I think you're right. I think there was some if a woman wanted there was like fertility things. So if a woman touched a certain thing at a time of day or whatever, then that would help towards that. Yeah.
Well, I sat in the chair and was married within a year. So, is that cursed, or is that good luck? So where's that line drawn?
I think it depends on the marriage.
Well, mine was good. So, but I mean, and I do think if you look at it, different countries and different beliefs will assign different things to cursed objects or good luck. I mean, it just means something different in each country. Things that are bad luck, in UK, Austria, whatever, here it doesn't make sense. We don't even know what these objects are. And, we can't associate death or past or anything to an object. So without that, it's just an object. So,
yeah.
Sorry about that. I had to dig through to get my item. I have my most haunted item.
Do you? All right.
Yes, I do. And I do want to, Bob's last comment that I posted up there, that's probably a more rational view of it, that people kept stealing the bottles and stuff like that. So then
it's on about the Winter's Gibbet. There was a head attached to the gibbet on the moors. People kept doing it. So I think that legend came up that it was haunted or that it was cursed.
That's just like the body that was taken here and put on display.
What?
So I'm gonna what?
I don't know what Bob's on about there.
That will explain why Dave's belly sticks
Hey,
out.
nothing on me, Uncle.
I'm a little confused on that comment also. So here's my most haunted object, guys. It's a little dusty. I had to dig it out. I haven't looked at it for years because I keep it in a charmed box that nullifies the evil.
Oh, I've got one as well.
So this is it. Let me see if I can show it.
Oh, I've seen those.
Yep. I think you and Dave both have seen these. You know what these, and here, guys that are watching this, this is so what these items are, and I'm holding it best I can. These are from the 1400s, 15th century. And any guesses in the chat what these are? Because if anything should be haunted, guys, these items should be.
They look like something to do with funerary rites or embalming or something like that. So,
No, well, in a well, I guess in some ways,
cutting people open.
These were used in human sacrifice.
Right. Yeah.
These go back to the Mayans, the 1400s. So over 600 years old. They're mostly copper. Yeah, these were human sacrifice. These were the knives that they used to sacrifice people, cut them open, cut their chest open, pull their heart out. Now, if anything should be haunted, guys, these items should be extremely haunted, don't you think? Yes or
and
no?
that explains why somebody used to creep into bed with you as a ghost. From if anybody watched last week's, hey, listen, I've got a one. So this is a this is a Valachian death mask from. I bought it.
Wait.
I know we were bringing objects out.
No. Did you just call that a Vulcan death mask?
It's a Valachian or Wallachian, but it's Valachian death mask, and that was in Romania in the Borgo Pass. I bought two of these from gypsies. Obviously, they were just complete tourists, but it's got a great story to it, though.
Oh yeah.
And apparently, these used to be placed on their faces upon death. So obviously, that's a bit of a thin face, but never mind. It was a great story, so I bought them. I fell for that one.
So, guys,
I gotta dispute you though, Cord.
What?
If we're gonna do that, I've got a shotgun that was used in a murder of 4 people, unknown stuff. I got that, but that was you're saying was used in a Mayan ritual and all that. And rituals were known. Sacrifices were known. It was good to be chosen as the person that was going to be sacrificed or whatever. It was bringing good luck or whatever to that family member. So if people are saying, this to be the chosen one to be sacrificed and this ritual and everything, and it's represented as a positive thing, then how can it be a negative thing? How can it be a curse thing? Again, it's a personal of the object.
And that's a very valid point. Now, when it comes to the Mayans and stuff, they also sacrificed. The first to be sacrificed were enemies, and I forgot the date, and I'm not going to give all the details, but in like 1 3-week period, they reportedly in one of their main cities killed over 100,000 enemy people. They sacrificed them. So, but you're always right, and it's those that didn't get sacrificed are the ones that wrote the history, right? That it is a good thing, because it was the priests and stuff saying, saying it's a good thing to be killed for us because you're,
Then it's a
and so you're
belief.
absolutely right.
It's an honor. It's an
Yeah,
honor.
it's an honor.
Uh,
I have a hard time believing that the person being sacrificed or their family.
They're bringing honor to their family, or bringing,
Yeah.
good to their family. Well, if I
So-
had, oh, sorry.
No, well, the one of my points, though, the only reason I showed it is because there's so many objects that are actually associated with these type of things that are never considered haunted. And it goes back to maybe the core of this question to Dave Carey is what actually has to occur for an object to be considered haunted? And because we've named a few, right? We named, oh well, if it's a celebrity, his car becomes haunted and cursed, and if it's it's like the bar, the pub, Dave, in England. The only reason people say that chair is haunted, really, isn't it really just because supposedly the story is it was the favorite of a murderer? That's where he always sat in, was that chair. So I'm going to ask both of you, what do you think the ingredients, let's say maybe the top 2 or 3 ingredients that has to be there for an object to be called or magically become haunted? Because it might be as simple as, oh well, 4 people have died who own that object, so it must be haunted. Dave, go ahead and go first, and then Carrie. What do you think?
Well, if I did believe it, which I don't, what I would say, a lot of cursed or haunted items well, let's just call them the same for the time being. There seems to be that human element which launches it. It's hard to explain. So, for example, there was some lady who died on on the eve of our wedding. So our wedding dress is haunted. Forgetting what she's called, Anne Baker. Anyway, why something has to be classed as I think it's purely a lot of pubs and hotels, a lot of places which would really benefit from tourism seem to have a lot of museums. Especially when you look at these museums which have formed just around these objects. I would say that you have to have, possibly a series of deaths which you can somehow try to link to it. It usually starts from someone who really loves and wants the object and refuses to part with it. And therefore there's a possible link with that the person refuses to rest, or the whatever refuses to rest until, I don't know, until what? I mean, because they can't sit in it, or whatever. So what do they do? I mean, it's like holding onto an object that you can't touch. Or can you? I don't know. Does any of that make sense, or is it just complete BS?
No, it's all good. It's all good. So Carrie's turn. You're up, Carrie. What do
I'm
you
like
think?
writing pages full. If I have an object and I hand it to you or Dave, and you're like, okay, what about it? And I'm telling you, well, it was used in a murder, it's haunted and all that, but you guys, to you, it's just an object. So without knowing what's taken place or what's tied to the object, then can something be haunted? For guns, knives, things that were used in history that were for the good stuff too, but we don't, like providing food and through time, and that things that these were used to keep families going. There were positive things associated to it, but we don't focus on the positive things. We're always drawn to the negative, scary things. Guns, oh, they kill people. Well, yeah, they do, but technically I'm not going to go into it. It's not the gun, it's the person. But we look at objects, and I think when you see something like that, we automatically think of the negative things that comes to objects that can take somebody's life. So at the same time, with what Dave was saying, if someone sits in the chair and they die, and you're right, we would have to sit there and say immediately that person needs an autopsy and all this stuff done to come up with underlying explanation as to why this person died. But that's not done.
Okay, go ahead, David.
Yeah, you know what? I think a lot of it might have to do with the mind again, and if I or if someone inherits something and they believe it to be cursed, then you can guarantee that anything that happens will be linked to it. It's just like a human nature, isn't it? Really. So I wonder how much of this is purely because they believe it. It's if I believed a curse, then it's probably got more chance of affecting me than if I didn't believe it at all.
Okay.
It's like if you believe you can get sick, you can make yourself sick. You can do this. The mind has the power to do all this stuff.
Well, let me ask you to this question before we go any further, is because in my mind there's a definite difference between haunted and cursed. So everything you guys just talked about makes sense for a cursed item, right? I mean, also it's like Carrie just mentioned, and Dave, both of you, about your mind, and you always harbor on the negative things that have occurred. You never look at all the positive stuff and all the other people that have been associated and nothing happened to them. Now, let's talk about the haunted objects. Do you think the same things you guys just mentioned can apply to haunted objects? So let's take a rocking chair. Say that chair in the pub, say it's a rocking chair, and instead of killing people, it would just throw them out on the floor, and then at night people would see it rocking back and forth. Now people would say, oh, they wouldn't say it's cursed, they'd say it's haunted. And the murderer doesn't like you sitting on his chair. He doesn't kill you, he just throws you out of the chair. So would the same things you guys just mentioned apply to haunted objects, like a haunted rocking chair as I just described? Go ahead, Dave, first, and then Carrie.
I think you're right. I think cursed objects are more sensationalized for deaths and destruction. A haunted object probably wouldn't get that recognition. Haunted objects to me would be that rocking chair rocking in the corner. But I would never associate a chair rocking in the corner with a haunted object. I would just associate that with something possibly in the location, Can there be haunted objects? I think the cursed objects is probably more of a human condition, but can there actually be haunted objects or are all these objects cursed? Like that like the different dolls and things like that. I mean, are they just cursed rather than being haunted?
Okay, great. And
because really a lot of the things we discuss and read about, it's always deaths. Those crying boy paintings in the 80s in the UK in particular. Everyone owned one in the house, and just because a couple of houses burned down, apparently it was a major curse. I think with a curse, Cordell, it's got to be a bit more sensational, death and destruction.
Sensationalize the key
word. Yeah. And
well,
is it reported? I don't know.
I got my opinion too. So
yeah, I'm going to let Carrie speak, but that's why I mentioned this, because I want us to separate the two, because I think we all agree that they're two different things: a haunted object and a cursed object. So everything you guys said about the mind and how people perceive a cursed object, how would that apply to a haunted object? And thanks, Dave. Go ahead, Carrie.
It takes something put in motion to create all this stuff, with a haunted object. Let's say there's a rocking chair and 100 people have sat in it, but it takes the biggest story to create possibly why it's haunted. It's, you know, the most famous person or the biggest story that spread through the town, that all of a sudden that gets associated with that event, and therefore that's haunted. If I ask somebody, you know, why is that object cursed? It's easy. They can say because something that personally they want you to believe. If I ask why an item's haunted, you know, can they give me the history? Do they actually know the history? Or is it just lost through time and it becomes this made up stuff? So it just, you know, like the rocking chair. What's the biggest story that ties to it? You're not going to remember the little people. You don't hear their stories. You don't, you know, tie haunted objects to them. It's sensationalized, well-known people. And to be haunted, I want to know the exact history. What is it? And people can't tell you.
Yeah. It's an interesting, and thanks again for the takes, guys. This is what's interesting about it, but and I want us, because I think we all agree there's 100% difference between a haunted object or the concept and the concept of a curse. So real quick, let's go. I want to play this one because I've never heard of this one. I put it up on the screen. And so I'm curious because it's a bed of where. I don't know what that means. Let's play it, see what they have to say. We'll get our take. But there's another topic. Well, it's the same topic, but I want to touch on dolls because that's so huge in the paranormal. So let's watch this and we'll see what this is all about. Here we go.
Bed is meant to offer us comfort, and it's a place that we should feel safe. However, what if your bed was haunted by a ghost or even a demon?
In around 1590, carpenter Jonas Fosbrook crafted a giant bed so large it's said to be able to sleep 4 couples. The extra large bed now lives at the Victoria and Albert Museum, but over the years, rumors have swirled that the bed is cursed by Fosbrook's ghost.
He has a particular dislike for couples who would have sex in the bed, and whenever such an act would occur, he would quickly put a halt to their activities by pinching the couple until they stopped.
He allegedly made the bed to be slept on by nobility, but eventually commoners began sleeping on it as it traveled from inn to inn. His spirit is said to attack any low-bred person who dares to rest their head on it,
deliberately hurting anyone of common birth who dares to sleep on his masterpiece of carpentry. He appears, from all accounts.
Okay, guys, I have not heard of this one before. I really haven't. Now this is before you guys say anything. I'm glad we played it because it's it's what we were talking about. And you heard her say it. She goes haunted and cursed all in the same sentence, that it's haunted and cursed by the spirit of XYZ. Now the interesting thing, it's like we talked about the chair, the rocking chair. This is a haunted item that the guy, the worst he does is he pinches people. and only when they're having sex in his bed, he pinches them. So there's no death. Well, and you know, I'm laughing here because this is exactly what we were talking about. There's no death, no destruction, no torture. It's just being pinched.
Could be torture.
Well, I don't know. I like to be pinched, but that's another story. We won't go into it. So this is what this is what we were talking about. This is supposedly a truly haunted object. So what's your take on this, Dave? And this is apparently in the UK, right?
It is, yeah. It's what a good bed. It's big enough to fit 4 couples. I'm not sure what they used to get on back in the olden times, but I can imagine. Yeah. Well, once again, it just ties in with my thoughts on haunted objects. I just can't see how or why.
Okay, and Carrie, go ahead. I'm gonna queue up one more, but go ahead.
Things that are personal or you don't talk about, those seem to be boundaries that people cross and tie these negative things. But the whole story, what was it based on? It wasn't the bed, it was the person. So
Yeah.
again, we're tying these beliefs to a person, not actually the object itself. So that just is a fault. It just is a negative. It's just a fault. It doesn't make sense.
It was also based on class. So if you were if you were a lowly person, there's absolutely no way you could rest your head on that on those pillows. You know?
So there's boundaries, things you don't cross, things
Yeah.
you don't. The untalked about things are easy to say, well, that's cursed because we don't talk about this stuff. But the whole thing was about the person, not the bed. So without the person, is the bed haunted?
I think Cordell's frozen. Is he? Oh no.
I was reading something.
He
No,
was
I'm
just being
trying.
remarkably still. He was like
What?
like a statue.
I was envisioning I was on that bed being pinched. That's what happened. No, good take on that. It's interesting because again, I'm a little frustrated, and as you guys know, I always voice when I'm a little frustrated with these. Because again, this top 10 haunted objects, I just scrolled through as you guys were giving your take because I hadn't seen it before. Literally, the Hope Diamond's in there. It's not a haunted object. Never has been called haunted. It's cursed. And so I'm a little frustrated with this intertwining and making cursed and haunted the same thing because they're not the same thing. And I did want to play one more.
They do run off of fear. People fear these things, and that's something that's common for everybody.
And Carrie, and very good point. I would add to that in agreement that they provoke some of the same emotions, right? Fear, all that stuff, and so yeah, you're absolutely right. Because we are starting to run out of time here, I wanted to get the most popular one, so I was scrolling through. It's their number one thing. It is a doll. So I thought we would watch it, then talk about not this particular doll. Let's not talk about what they show, but the whole concept of dolls, because everybody's heard the stories of haunted dolls. It's like me, I've never heard this haunted bed. Matter of fact, I've never heard of a haunted bed before. But dolls, everybody's heard of. Everybody sees dolls. Half of the population hates dolls. The other half of the population loves dolls. So I really want to get into that. So let's watch this last one, which is their number one. And hold on a second. Let me get it queued up. And you can tell right now what it is. We know that it looks like it's Annabelle, but I'm going to back it up a little bit here. Annabelle the doll. It's their number one. So here we go, guys.
The Annabelle doll. Paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warrens.
Oh,
Utah homeowner.
Oh, we got to go. Oh, man. Sorry, guys. We're going to have to go through the ad. Hold on.
All the electric companies.
I'm muting it till it's over. Okay.
You should be able to skip here.
Like this one.
So when it comes to haunted objects, you think of Annabelle right away.
Annabelle the doll served as inspiration for the Conjuring movies because of the creepy tale that accompanied her.
It was a big mistake acknowledging this doll. And through that, the inhuman spirit tricked you. You gave it permission to infest your lives.
In 1970, the doll was given as a gift to a student nurse who noticed eerie things about it and eventually had a medium step in to give an opinion.
Annabelle's story begins in 1970 when a 28-year-old nursing student named Donna received a Raggedy Ann doll from her mother as a birthday present.
The expert deemed it to be possessed. a viewpoint that the Warrens agreed upon when the doll eventually found its way to them. Well, we're happy to have this thing locked up in a glass box.
While it was on display at the occult museum that Ed and Lorraine have, somebody went in there, was antagonizing Annabelle, and then ended up getting into a motorcycle accident.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other.
Okay, guys, that's all I wanted to show on that. Let me take that solo off. Let me stop that video. Let's get us back to the correct squares. We're set now. Hold on 1 second. I think Bob's comment had to do with the bed, guys. So I wanted to show that because that the doll concept. Forget about Annabelle. We don't need to talk about Annabelle. Everybody knows the story of Annabelle. Let's just talk about dolls. I personally will. Here's my take, real quick. Then we'll go Dave and Carrie, and we'll just discuss it. I think it's the natural thing to be haunted. I've not seen any doll that I would say you would call cursed. There's a few, I guess. There's the Doll Island in Mexico, I believe, somewhere in Mexico, where all these dolls and I think that might, you could say, curse. But anyway, dolls kind of make sense because what do? They look human. They have 2 legs, 2 eyes, a human face, etc. And I get that aspect of it. So I think there's a natural tendency that if activity occurs in a location, they blame the doll. Somebody sees the doll moving, oh, it must be possessed and have a evil spirit in it. But again, I haven't seen any concrete evidence. Somebody's at my door. I haven't seen any concrete evidence that a doll in of itself has actually harmed anybody. There's
Are you
always
sure someone's at your door? Go on.
Yeah, there they were. Well, I don't know. I do have I don't know. So anyway, that's kind of my take on it, but I'm more interested in your and Carrie's take. So Dave, dolls. Let's hear it, Dave, and then Carrie.
Yeah, dolls. I mean, for that doll in particular, anything to do with the Warrens, you got to take with a pinch of salt. I think, dolls to me, once again, I don't know unless you can, as that paranormal expert once said, is that when children are playing with them, they can put that EMF into it, which is complete craziness. But never mind. I just think that Zach being okay. I just think that how could anything like that be haunted or cursed? Or it's an object. I mean, it's just an object.
Okay, Carrie, go ahead.
Children play with dolls. Children pull on your heartstrings, especially if you're a parent. So parents who see their children playing with this doll, it's their best friend, it's their cuddle buddy and all that. You're constantly giving this reassurance with this doll to this child. For a parent, if something were to happen to that child, what do you have left? You've got this doll that this child loves. It almost takes on a whole different meaning for those parents or that family. I mean, it's going to be easier to tie something in haunted exactly to a doll versus in a article of clothing or something. So but it seems too that the families that have these dolls that are passed down and they run deep in the family history, but if you hand it to someone else, they don't have that history, so it doesn't tie into them as much. But dolls, you assign children love, these deep emotions to dolls. And I think that's sometimes you'll notice people who don't have kids don't tie the same meaning into. So why is a doll bad? If this was my child's favorite toy, then why automatically are these things bad? They're not. People refuse to look at, they don't want to confront death. They don't want to deal with tragedy. They don't want to know, accept these things. And through time, it gets passed down. And again, it's a fear. It's an unknown. It's a way to cling on to something in somebody. So it's just running emotions, and that it's not that it's haunted. It's that person emotion. That what deals with one person is not going to be the same for another. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
The Warrens occult, you don't touch it, but you can come to my museum, pay a fee, come through, but you're protected because I've got glass around it and salt. We're all safe with that. It's BS. It's total BS.
Let me throw this in. I've always looked at it as, so say a person has a doll collection, they think 2 or 3 dolls are haunted because they've moved, they find them off the shelf in the morning, whatever the case may be. Paranormal investigators go, they go, oh, well, yeah, those dolls they got an evil spirit attached to them, whatever. Now, here's my perspective. If I was haunting a location and I knew dolls would be probably one of the things I would manipulate to scare the crap out of people, because they are scared of this humanoid looking thing that comes at you. And this goes way back in American culture. I remember Twilight Zone, guys, where it was Telly Savalas as the actor, and he's the stepfather, and the daughter gets a doll, and the doll actually is possessed. It has an evil spirit. It's alive. It actually uh, uh, tells him she's gonna kill him and all this stuff, and the doll does, kills him. This is like 1962. So this whole concept of dolls goes way back. But I can see a spirit, a human entity manipulating a doll to scare people, because I would probably do it if I was an entity, if I was dead, et cetera, et cetera. But so real quick, do you guys think that an evil spirit, because it's always an evil spirit, right? I mean, it's always evil. Why would it be stuck in a doll, for one? Because it never seems to vacate the doll. There has to be a ritual to get the evil spirit out of the doll. If the evil spirit's so powerful and it can injure people and raise all this havoc, why can't the evil spirit leave the doll, or can it? And do you think this is even possible, that a spirit is locked into a doll and just travels with this doll wherever? And Carrie, I'm going to go with Carrie first, Dave, because you brought up the interesting point. Annabelle, behind glass case, salt. You would think that the evil spirit, because the Warrens were known throughout the spiritual world, right? Why wouldn't the evil spirit go, oh, hell no, I ain't going home with you guys. I know what you're going to do. How come that never happens? The evil spirit and the doll runs away down the street before it gets in the house, because it has to know who the Warrens are, because they're so well known. Air quotes, yes. Air quotes.
Do you notice these dolls resemble each other through time? It's always a doll that looks a certain way that's possessed or cursed. The Raggedy Anns. Well, hell, I had Raggedy Ann and Andy, but people were like, okay, these type of dolls seem to be haunted. Again, something has to be put into play. There has to be something, that an action, emotion, or something that starts all this. Without that, nothing can be, really. And again, dolls, they look human. They represent almost innocence. A child is innocent. What's one of the worst tragedies you ever hear of is a child, an innocent child dying, or, God forbid, something horrible happening to them. You want to keep that almost keep that purity there. So you assign it to some. That's like the father who was building the dollhouse for his daughter. I think it was 1920s, and she died. So he built a dollhouse around her headstone and made the headstone part of this dollhouse, human-sized dollhouse. And again, I think it's going to mean different things to different people. So then who's right? Now, if I say you're handing me an object, I'm like, what about it? And Cordell says, well, yeah, it's cursed or haunted. Who's going to win? Who's right? It takes something to put into play. It's a fear. It's a fear of loss. It's a fear of innocence taken. All these things, emotions, and that are put into play. And I think that's how it builds. It's personal, people to people, but no, not teddy bears. I mean, you're looking at things that were innocence, things that are taken, innocence and all that are horrible things, So I'm sorry I'm on a rant, but yeah, no, not haunted, not
Okay. Dave, what's your take on it? And
one last thing real quick.
Oh, good.
If, let's say I have something and it belonged to, let's just say, a dear family member of mine, and it holds this stuff, and then you or Dave come in and want to take it from me, what am I going to do? I'm going to tie these things to it, and I'm almost going to say, you're going to take it from me. All this stuff's going to, so it's just.
Okay. Thank you, Carrie. Dave, what's your take on it?
If you look at dolls, clowns, it does kind of tie into that innocence thing, right? I mean, Poltergeist, there was a clown. There was a clown. If a lot of the, if you look at a haunted place, you always see like a young girl with long black hair over her face. It's. I think you're right in a way. I think we have associated that. It seems to be a lot worse when it is innocence that's been affected. Like a child. And
what's a bigger story, Dave, on that? A haunted doll or a haunted rocking chair? It's probably going to be a haunted doll because it is tied into an innocence, whereas a rocking chair, And
I think once again that just reflects on the maybe it's the human side of this, or whether it is all in the mind anyway, and you're playing on fears, and you're playing on like in that location in Wyoming, a little girl, there was a little girl running around the place. Might not have been a little girl, but you automatically assume, because it's the worst thing you could think of, as being lost. Looking for those EVPs we got in the train station. I was a little girl looking for a mummy, saying "mummy, mummy," and I think that's got a greater impact on you than
children and then women.
Yeah.
Men are last. You guys are always, the guys are evil. Things that are associated pretty much with women or children are not, I would say more like haunted with them versus cursed. But
I mean, you can guarantee if it's a white lady, it's sorrow. Someone was ditched at the altar, or someone's love went to sea and didn't come back, and she still stands there waiting. And so you kind of build up these. There must be thousands of stories like that, So I think you're right. I think we just build up this picture based upon maybe it's our own perceptions. You're right. If it's an evil, it's probably a man. You're right, Carrie.
Yeah,
I mean,
if you catch a woman crying, go ahead. You got a lag. I was just going to say, if you catch, I think we're frozen. I don't know. No. Catch a woman crying on an EVP, it's the same thing. Why is it tied to something bad? We cry over good things too, but the human mind wants to go to the negative because it's played it, and that's the problem. Is it's the negative is always, you know, sensationalized.
Yeah.
And
how many times have we gone into a location and said, you know, oh, there must be something evil up there. It's a little boy or a little girl. You know, you never say that. It's always a man. You know,
yeah.
it's you know, it's so I think we do. It's like archetypes, and that I'm sure your mind just does put these perceptions onto things, you know, and so it may not even be anything, but it's all in here, you know, and I think that's probably why.
I think it's what's personal to each person.
Yeah, you know, there was all these little girls with long black hair crawling over TVs, things like that. You know, it's horrific because it's innocence, you know, and yeah.
So I think it's interesting, and that's why I saved the doll category for last, guys, because you know there's dozens upon dozens of famous haunted dolls, and more people believe in haunted dolls than they do haunted beds, right? So that's why I saved that one for last. Go ahead, Carrie.
Yeah, but what's more common and put out in this world? Thousands and thousands and thousands of dolls. You're going to see those versus a bed or a chair that's random in there. So it's easy. Dolls are always going to be there. They're present. They're in abundance. So
No, dolls are. You're absolutely right, and you know, I don't like dolls, and I'll tell you why I don't like dolls, and it goes back to my childhood because in the summer I stayed with my cousins a lot in Layton, and my cousin Janet, who was 8 years older than me and my cousin, she had this doll that was over 3 feet tall. It was yeah, it was this huge doll that stood there, and it had blonde hair. I thought it was a creepy smile. And my older cousin Brett one day said, "Yeah," he goes, it came after me one night." And ever since then, I was like, "Oh no, no, no!" And I was like 7 years old, and that's where I can still picture that doll. It was 3 friggin' feet tall. Anyway, this is an interesting thing. Let me ask you guys this question, because we're into it an hour and 40 now. So I'm curious, do you think it's perfectly reasonable that an entity, a spirit in a home, would use a doll to scare somebody, would use like a rocking chair to rock back and forth as you pass by? See, to me, that's all it is. It's not that there's some evil spirit residing in a doll. Because here's my point, guys. When was the last time you saw an authentic video that you were 100% convinced was real, showing a doll jumping off of a chair or jumping off of a bed and actually walking on 2 feet across the room? It doesn't exist. The only videos on haunted dolls is this. That's it. A head,
are you?
no, a slight head movement or an arm
Oh, wait,
movement.
I was going to show something there. I was like watching the screen.
Well, no,
Yeah, I know. I was like, it was
well, no,
this.
that was my point. This is all that's on video for haunted dolls is the head
Yeah.
moving a little bit, it falling
Over 3 hours.
it falling against the case, or its arm moving slightly. That's all there is. You look at all the videos going, "Oh yeah, we caught this doll moving." Yeah, and after 8 hours, the arm moved down. You know, there's nothing that would indicate that anybody's ever captured that I'd say this doll's haunted. If it's haunted, it's a poor vessel to haunt, because the spirits apparently can't even walk in the damn thing across the floor. There's anecdotal stories, guys, of going, "Well, yeah, I left it on my bed and I came home and it was on the living room couch." But there's still no evidence how it got there. Maybe they had a dog and the dog carried it there. There's all kinds of reasons why it could have. but there's no evidence. So I would argue that if dolls can actually be haunted, it's a horrible choice if you're an entity or spirit. So, Dave, what's your take on my statement? Because that was the last thing I was going to say on dolls. Go ahead, Dave. And then Carrie.
Yeah, I agree. And I just want to reiterate that these are kind of our thoughts. These are our kind of views. So hope no one, maybe at odds with the viewer's beliefs, and that's fine. These are. Oh, sorry. Oh.
I hope it's a picture of a doll.
What's the chances of that? No, I think. Yeah, I've just lost my track now. Yeah, so I agree with you, Cordell. It's if you could possess or haunt anything, why a tiny little object like that? But once again, I don't believe that anything like that could happen. So
okay.
So I agree with you.
Well, okay, Carrie, you're up.
Yeah, apparently when I was little, I had one of those dolls too, and I was terrified of it. Well, you're a child, you're traumatized by these things, and you carry it through. Again, it can't just be the object. You have to be put something into the objects. There's got to be something in play to create this, and what's put in play by different people. It's random. If you're going to do that, it's like, let's say, Cordell, you have a fear of dolls. Dave has a fear of clowns. Let's say I have a fear of teddy bears. Everybody's got something different. And so, again, I do think it's something that has to be put in play by certain people. Dolls, those things are high up there because of innocence, and they do represent more of the human looks than that so easily is tied. But no, I think it takes something in motion, someone has to put something into an object to create, and what someone puts into that object is not going to be the same as somebody else.
Well, and we're going to wrap up here, guys. Good takes, but I just want to say one quick thing. The day that a doll comes after me, like Chucky in the movies, where it's running at me.
The Chucky doll up here, Dave.
Yeah. Well, and that's my point. The day that happens, a doll comes running at me, chuckling with a weird smile on its face. Then I'll be a believer in haunted, possessed dolls. There's no clear evidence other than slight movements that we wouldn't even pay attention if it was a rocking chair. And so, yes, Carrie?
Oh, no, I was just saying bye, Bob. But when you're done, I do want to say one thing. There is a Chucky marathon on, but it's to what Dave said. I'm not telling anybody that they're wrong to feel certain things towards certain objects. If it was something that belonged to someone dear and it comforts you and all that, that is perfectly fine. I'm not stating that you're wrong for that. We're just talking about the other stuff. So as Dave said, this is our opinion. I have items that comfort me. So I'm not telling anybody if this was someone's doll that it can't be.
Well, I just want to mention that Bob does have.
So sorry.
Well, Bob has his magazines that comfort him. So
yeah, it's funny, Jane. I was going to mention that inflatable one under Cordell's bed.
Hey, they're not inflatable anymore. They're polyurethane or something.
Oh, I like mine to be more portable, Carrie. Anyway, so no, it was a great conversation, and you're absolutely right. This is just a talk show, and we just voice our opinion. And do we agree with a lot of things out in the paranormal? Yes. Do we disagree? Yes, with a lot of things in the paranormal. I find this fascinating. But and so I did want to mention that about dolls. I get so I find it actually hilarious that a doll is evil and possessed when its arm moves. or its voice box comes on, and it's like all of a sudden this evil thing. Now, like I said, to me, I would take that as just an object being manipulated by an entity in the environment, just like a rocking chair moving or a door slamming. I've never associated that object must be haunted. I don't understand the principle.
It's the eyes. If people say they feel like they're being watched, or I stayed in a room that had hundreds of porcelain dolls, and it freaked me out because it's these human looking eyes that are like staring at you, and people say you feel like you're being watched or looking into your soul. Again, it represents humans and so
Yeah.
forth. So
Well, like I said, guys, till that day that a doll chases me around a building, running with its little feet, which I could outrun, I'm not going to be afraid. I'll probably start taunting it, going, "Yeah, come on, come on, come on." And I'd probably jump over it and laugh and kick it. I mean, I'm not going to be, but my point is, I'm joking, but none of that's ever happened. Nobody has a legitimate video or anything of a doll running across the floor just in Hollywood movies.
the doll Dave gave me of Chucky, it moves. You just gotta push a button.
Well,
That's exactly what
go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Cordell, and I think it is fair to say that we could be 100% wrong, because no one knows anything about this field, really. There are no experts, and these are just our views,
These are questions that have to be asked to get this paranormal and all that to expand, to collect data.
I think it's fair to say we just haven't got any experience of it, we haven't anything,
No, and I do want to say you guys are absolutely right. I'm open to it. Like I said, if it happens and we experience it, we get data on it.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly happy to change my opinion. But what's out on YouTube and the stories about these haunted objects, we could come up with 5 other reasons why it's not haunted, and they'd be just as valid. And on that note, we're gonna have to wrap this up. This is another
one real
topic.
quick thing. Just leave this one up there. I know, but this is the ball that was thrown at me. Was the ball haunted, or was it what was throwing? Again, it's something in action.
Absolutely correct. Again, that it's, to me, that's the whole like dolls. Somebody sees a doll move, oh, the doll is evil. And guys, this is just my advice, my opinion. Don't buy crap out on eBay when they say a haunted doll for sale.
There's a zillion haunted dolls that do the same thing.
Yeah, and and it's gotten so bad, guys, out on eBay and stuff, that they'll burn half of its face, they'll pop an eyeball out, they'll tatter up the clothes, make it dirty, go, "Oh, this is haunted."
But if it looks like an angel in any way, it's good.
Yeah, and so you're welcome to buy all that stuff, but honestly, if you believe that it's haunted and you want something haunted, yeah, don't do that. Don't go out and buy the boxes and all that stuff. Anyway, that's just my take on it. People are making tens of thousands of dollars off of these type of items and these type of things. I just haven't seen any evidence yet. Carrie, Dave, you're absolutely right. There might be a day that we experience stuff and collect data and go, "Hey guys," and we'll be the first ones to admit, we'll come on here and say, "We were totally wrong. Here's what happened. Here's our data. We're wrong."
This can all tie into philosophy talks and that too. So, I mean, you have to ask these questions. You have to not be afraid to bring them up. Don't fall into the norm. What one person says, you have to follow it. You've got to question and be yourself, and it's okay.
Okay, on that note, we got to wrap up, guys. It's almost 10 to 2 Utah time, Mountain Standard Time. I want to thank Robert. I want to thank Jane. Jane's a member of our team. Thank
They all are.
Kimberly. I want to thank you. Yeah, Bob's member of Paranormal Pulse UK. Kimberly is a member of Pulse US. But I want to thank everybody else that showed up or watches this. Great topic. Had a great time. And on that note, we'll say goodbye. Next week, I have no idea, as usual, guys, what we'll talk about. And I do want to mention again, this is a topic I think all three of us could go on for another 3 hours discussing and talking and throwing out hypothesis and all kinds of different scenarios. This could go on forever, but I really want to thank Dave, Carrie. Thanks for your Sunday, and I hope whoever watches this enjoys it. Click the subscribe button. Can't even speak now. That helps us on YouTube for their algorithm. Hit the like button. Really appreciate it. I want to thank everybody again, and that's my goodbye to everybody, and we'll see you next week. Dave, visit our Facebook page, guys. If you haven't been to our Facebook, please check it out. We have multiple ones. Dave, go ahead and say goodbye, and Carrie.
Yeah, had another great night. Goodbye, everyone. And I'll see you next week.
Hypotheses have to be tested. That's what we're doing. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.